Welcome back, Team Zoe, your Android chef. Now, in this module, we want to understand what's the best way to handle navigation in a multi-modular application. Because if you look at it, we have different kinds of modules. We have the core, feature 1, feature 2, and feature 3. How should your modules communicate with the core application or the main entry point of your application? Now, let's get to understand our first problem. Now, if you look at this application here, so we have the app, we have the kitchen, the orders, and the recipe. Everything is structured in different kinds of modules. Now, on the app sits everything where it connects. So this is the entry point of the application and where it communicates with your app on what to do, which module communicates with who, and who relates to who. So inside our core Java here, so we have the main activity. And then we do have the kitchen. So for now, we'll have this, we can call it the core module, where it has some shared logic. So you can just say here, we have the roads here for our application. So we'll come back to it later. Now, we do have other modules like the Java, the orders, where we have the orders with screen A, screen B, orders. And then also we do have another last package here. We have the recipe. So we have this kind of recipe. So if we do run our application now, let's see what happens. So when you launch this application, so it's simple for now. You can go to screen, from screen A to B, B to C, C to A, and back to C. Now we can quickly just add this here. So you can say we have a column so that we can identify which exact screen we are in. So we can just include a simple text here that says this is screen. So we have screen A. So remember to always practice best practices where you need to export this. But for now, we'll just have it here. So you can also just copy this to screen B and then say here. So add this and then you can say, now this is screen B. And then we do have a screen C. We just had this one here and say, now we are in screen C. So if we do run our application now, you see we are in screen A, so we can go to screen B, and then we are now in screen B. We can go to screen C, and then from screen C, we can go back to screen A. If you're new to navigation, remember to check out my other previous tutorials where we started navigation from scratch. I've posted the link on the comment, so if you want to learn more about navigation, check out the previous episodes where we worked through navigation from zero to hero. So navigating, including types of navigation, we have nested navigations, building with graphs. Now, let's try to understand what exactly we are trying to solve. Now, take our application, for example, as our kitchen. Now, remember, we have the head chef, and the head chef doesn't really need to cook each and every other meal. Instead, the head chef will only coordinate how meals are prepared. In our kitchen, the recipe shouldn't know how we will get into the kitchen. It only needs to tell the chef in the kitchen, hey, a user needs this meal, can you cook it? And the application will decide, yes, this is how I will handle that kind of a recipe. And that's how our application should behave. So let's go clean up. So remember, with the multi-module architecture, the goal is separation of concerns. So we want each and every module, like the other modules, to be a standalone. So working under assumption that maybe we just want to build a library as an SDK. So we want to make sure that we can export these orders and it can be used by other kind of applications without the need to depend on recipes or maybe the need to depend on the core. So if you look at these orders here, so we have this graph here. So we have two screens. So we have screen A, and if you go to screen A, it's just a simple one where we have the nav controller and an optional modifier. So of course, we have a box here to just align our content in the center. So that's why we have these screens here and the text and everything here. Now we have the nav controller here, which we are now calling the navigate to screen B. So if you go to screen B, let's just go to screen B, then go to screen B here. So if you go to screen B, it's the same scenario where we have the nav controller, optional modifier, and in our own click, we now navigate to our screen C. Yeah, this might work for now, but it's not the best practice because it beats the logic of actually having modularization in the first place. So remember, with modularization, we are here to make sure that we have separation of concerns, and sometimes you get some quick build time, because if you make a change in one module, it doesn't need to rebuild the other modules that are not affected by the change. So you get a faster build with the multi-module architecture. You might be asking yourself, why should we go through all this trouble? Well, we just need to navigate between 3 screens: the main core, recipe, feature, and feature 1, feature 2, and feature 3. Now, your application might not be big at the moment, but later on it's going to scale. So you might want to have the payment features, you might want to have the profile features, authentication features, you might want to have card payments, and your application will grow big. Now, with time, you might need more hands when developing the applications. So what happens when each and every other module depends on the other module? So for example, our nav controller. So we have a nav controller in payments, we have a nav controller controlling our profile, we have a nav controller in orders, we have a nav controller in your profile. Technically, we might be having a whole bowl of spaghetti code, which needs some cleanup. So how can we clean this up? So let's try do some cleanup here. So the first thing we want to do is we don't want the navigation from screen B orders, or we can actually call them the core. So the kitchen can be our core. We have the orders as maybe you can have feature A, and then we have the recipe as maybe feature B. So here we don't want interdependency between recipe knowing what's happening in the orders knowing what's happening in the core. So the only thing we can do here is we want to remove this nav controller here and get an on-click lambda. So maybe an event listener. So we can just say on event click. So maybe something like on event click, which is of course a lambda. Then for now we can just return a unit. So with this, we can now replace the nav controller here with just an event click. So remove this and then this guy here. So a little bit of cleanup. Yes. So we have actually removed the navigation hard coding. So it's our navigation is no longer hard coded here within the button on click listener, within the on click lambda. So now technically, you can now use screen B without knowing which kind of navigation will be used, whether you want to use the type 7 navigation or any other kind of navigation within your module. So we're only exposing this on-click lambda here, this one here. So irrespective of how you're going to handle your navigation, we can always pass this kind of event inside our button. Yes, so we can still do the same for screen A. So I'm just going to copy this. Yeah, just copy that, go to screen A, remove this, replace that. Also replace this here with on event click, clean it up, and then we can have our screen C. So we can now come here and say we don't want to do this, and then first thing is we want to just replace that, and then now in our here we want to say sorry, we just want to say we are replacing this with on event click. Our code is now clean because the only thing that this screen needs to know is we have an event. And then we can now handle this kind of event in our navigation within the app module, where it controls, or the entry point where it controls what happens within the entire modules. So this app only should know the business of these other modules, but these other modules should be independent of each other in such a way that we can export it as a library and use it with the other kind of features within the application. Now, if we go back to our routes here, I don't think we now need this, so we can actually, let's just delete this. Delete that. Recipes, we don't need this routes again. Yeah, so this is cleanup, and then if we go now to our core where it handles the routes. So we've defined here that we have a serialized screen A, order, screen B, and screen C. So these are our routes where we use them to navigate between the screens. So if you go back to our main activity, I'd already set up some code base here. So we have this nav controller here. Of course, this is the entry point of the navigation. And then we have the nav host, which will be hosting our navigations. So we have the nav controller, we pass in the nav controller, and then we have the start destination as our order screen A. So remember, if you go back to screen A, just go this way, actually this is the root. So if you go back to our screen A, we had named this one as screen A. So we need to tell our nav controller that we need to move to this kind of screen. So if we go back here, we need to create our composables within the app. So we go back to our main activity. we can safely remove this. Then we can now say we want to create composable. So we can have composable. We need to define the root here. So say we have our route as screen A. Then we can now call our screen A. Then remember, our screen A expect an event. So when we say now on event click, you want to say nav controller dot navigate to now our route dot. We want to go to screen B. So this is how our navigation will now run. So if you now go back to our route, you can see the utilization between screen A and screen B. So we also need to do the same for screen C. So we come back here. Let's just copy this. Yeah, makes sense to just, given that we are not doing a basic navigation. So we can now say we are in screen B, and then this one should be screen B. We need to navigate to screen C. Yeah, so we need to import this. And then here we need to say we are in screen C. Same thing here. We need to change to screen C. Then now we need to navigate back to screen. Actually, we need to navigate back to screen A. Then we need to import this. Screen C. There's something here wrong. So we're in screen C. Okay, let me just say screen C. Sorry, screen C. Yes. Now, if we now build our app, so there's something wrong here. So we come back here. We can just optimize the imports. Then close that. So let's run our app, and hopefully it won't crash. Yeah, this is screen A. We can go to screen C. Oh, okay, screen B. We can now go to screen C. In screen A, we can now go to screen B. We can loop that, but we can clean up. So we want to pop the stack. So after the last screen, we want to directly land on the first screen and clear the back stack. Now we can do that here. So we can just come here and say in screen C here, what we want to do here is we want to pop up to route. So route dot screen A, and we can say inclusive. Yeah, we can have it as true. So run our application. So let's see how it goes. Now we have our application here, so we can go to screen B. We can go to screen B. In screen B, we can go to screen C. We can screen A, and yeah, pop up the rest as it is. Now that's how we should be handling your navigation in the multi-module architecture. Yeah, so you can as well remove this because we now have graphs here. You can just you can just go this and put it there. Yeah, we can just add it. Okay, we just copied the wrong thing. Just undo that. We want to copy the entire file actually. So copy that file. Just put it there, and then cancel for now. And then yeah, we can remove this for now, and just everything will be refactored. So this means now all the other architecture, the core, the orders, the recipe are very independent from each other. So the only thing that now understands about navigation is the app. And that's how your application should behave. So we started off with a message screen where every screen knew about the nav controller and how everything else worked. And we cleaned it up to now feature specific per module. You only need to create events within the modules, and the application will decide how the navigations will behave. Now, that's a cleaner approach. Remember, modularization isn't just about creating more granular modules. It's about feature-specific separation of concerns. It makes things easier for testing, separation of concerns, and even contributing to the entire project. See you in our next episode, where we will be handling how do you handle your backstack within your application where you have so many screens navigating. How do you carry that kind of data? And when do you pop stack and when do you clear it? So in our last episode of navigation, we want to understand how do you manage your navigations when you have multiple screens. So see you then. Make sure you subscribe. So James Owen, your Android chef.